Welcome back to the warm up, everybody. We are live on this Thursday evening. Woke up to some breaking news. LaMelo Ball has been traded. Joining me to react and break it all down is Ben. Ben, how you doing?
Doing good, man. Excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course, man. Anytime. Yeah, or before we get into it, please like, comment, subscribe on the video. Let us know your thoughts on LaMelo Ball. Yeah, let's get into it. So LaMelo Ball, we caught wind last night that he might be traded. And, I mean, we caught wind of Giannis, and that took 418 days. So I feel like I didn't know how to go about it, like if it was going to be a 24, 48-hour process. But for some reason, I felt like it was going to pick up a little bit sooner rather than later, only because um, LaMelo Ball just had his best year yet. The Hornets had their best year yet, and it's kind of a weird situation. And only two teams were rumored to be in intense talks, in the Wolves in Toronto. But yeah, give me your thoughts on the whole situation.
Um, Very out of nowhere. I heard the news last night and I kind of began to gather my thoughts of like, okay, this is kind of what I could see and like where I could see him fitting. I thought
Mm-hmm.
Clippers for a little while. That was kind of one of the places I was like, hey, he could go in and fit there. Minnesota was honestly the last place I thought of for many, many reasons. So when the news broke this morning around 8:30, I couldn't help but laugh because I was just like, that was just the last place I expected him to go. So with that said, that kind of wraps like my initial thoughts. But as far as the package is concerned, I
Yeah.
love it for the Charlotte Hornets. I think it's a fantastic deal for them. They get the three swaps, and then they also get that unprotected 2033 out of it. I believe it was 3 second-round picks as well.
Yeah.
And then you get Naz Reid, who is a very established basketball player that is turning himself from a role player into a respectable starter in this league. And that's the role he's going to play in Charlotte. So
Yeah.
your return for a guy like LaMelo was very good. Hats
Mm-hmm.
off to them for that. As for Minnesota, um, very confusing. It's been a very confusing 48 to more hours for Minnesota as far as kind of the moves they've made. I knew when they made the Randall move that there was more coming. It makes no
Yeah.
sense to offload Randall and a better pick for a worse
Yeah.
pick unless you're trying to clear space for something else.
Right.
Um, so this doesn't surprise me as far as like the gravity of the move. I just think the fit is really what surprises me. And we can get into the basketball side of it later. I think my main concern here is how do you know, how is this going to look on the court? I think that's really the biggest thing. How is he going to coexist with Ant? How is Ant going to coexist with him? And then also now that you've gotten rid of Naz Reid, I think that puts a lot more on guys like Rudy Gobert. There's no more backup plan to that.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're straight Rudy Gobert, which means you're putting more on him. Um, Very interesting overall, but that's kind of my first thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, when I first saw the news break, I honestly thought how incredible it would be that Anthony Edwards and LaMelo Ball are going to share a backcourt together, especially with the concerns you have with Anthony Edwards come playoff time. He keeps
Mhm.
getting double teamed, his playmaking out those double teams. I think adding a guy with LaMelo's playmaking ability, and honestly, in a way, like you can't just straight up double Anthony Edwards anymore because LaMelo Ball will hit an open shot. Um, but you're right. Like what they gave up in Nas Reed, um, what they gave up in Nas Reed is super interesting. Just because I mean, the reason why they made it to back conference finals over the past 3 years was that they had Cat, they had Nas Reed, and they had Gobert. They had a center rotation
Mhm.
in an NBA that they had a lot of position versatility, and I thought they lost that with Randall. They now lose it with Nas Reed. And I think honestly it might come back to bite them in the butt. But I mean, I don't think this is done. I know the Wolves will try to find a backup big or a backup or a starting level power forward or a backup level power forward
They're gonna
and
have
go
to.
from there. But yeah,
Yeah, I think another thing that stands out here is, I mean, this really just makes that Cat trade look like an absolute disaster, even more.
Yeah.
Swapping Randall for Cat, and Cat wins the ring. Now Randall's gone, and now this feels also almost like a panic move as well. I mean, now you've given up Nas Reed, so it's like you gave up Cat, you gave up Nas Reed, Randall's gone. The only big remaining is Rudy Gobert, and
Hmm.
I've always made the argument that Rudy Gobert should be the first to go out of those three that I just mentioned. Um, as far as like how I see the fit in Minnesota, so I'm not really understanding what's going on here. It really doesn't make sense to me. But I think the thing is, like, everybody from the jump is going to look at this Timberwolves team and say, okay, it starts and finishes with that tandem backcourt. Um, and I think one of the things we're going to see early on is in the season and probably in preseason too is like, there's going to be like a chemistry adjustment there that's going to have to be made when you put
Hmm.
guards like this together. I mean, we've seen it a lot of times in the NBA where they try to make tandem backcourts such as these. It's going to take time. It's also
Yeah.
going to require a guy like LaMelo to be healthy, which he's only proven to do for one season. So
Yeah.
Minnesota's taking a massive gamble here, as far as like, what is his health going to look like? Is he going to fit next to Ant? And now you've sacrificed one of your dynamic bigs. So it's a really big risk for me.
Yeah, no, I feel like just to add on to that, I just feel like it was like their last bullet in the chamber. I feel like this is their one last like move. They give up the rest of their picks. Some of those swaps are kind of interesting though because they're not the Wolves' swaps. They're like other team swaps of swaps. So
Mm-hmm.
like I'm at the point with those. It's like just let me know when it's draft day and who actually owns the pick
Mm-hmm.
type
Yeah.
situation. But
Yeah.
it definitely felt like it was like a last resort, and I'm kind of like, what if I don't know if Lamelo Ball is that the correct piece to go after? I think the process behind getting another playmaker that can double and I think that's the right process. But I don't know if Lamelo Ball is the correct
No.
player because
Yeah.
like you said, like his defensive versatility has not been there. He has the height, so I feel like they could kind of mask him, but I don't think this is a trade. I think I could see this trade very easily just in the next 7 to 8 months or even the next year. Like, oh, if we would have kept all that stuff we got for Lamelo Ball, what would we've gotten X superstar player that just became available? And I think this is just a big gamble. I think this is one of those moves. It was rumored that they didn't like Randall in the locker room. He was bad, and him and Ant weren't getting along. And it feels like one last salvageable push to keep Anthony Edwards from making a trade request. So, yeah,
Yeah, I we'll speak on the Ant thing later, because I have more to say on that. But like back to what you were saying, like all that stuff that they gave up. What are your thoughts as far as like, hey, what is that stuff going to do in Charlotte?
yeah. I mean, wait, repeat that again. I'm sorry.
Like, what is the stuff they gave up? The picks, Nas Reed. Like,
Oh,
what does that look like for Charlotte?
no, I mean from Charlotte's end, I think they looked in the mirror. They're like, hey, last summer we tried to get off LaMelo Ball. They have this resurgent renaissance type year, and it build LaMelo Ball's value just enough where it's like, okay, we're gonna sell high. Because I think the owners looked around and were like, what we did the end of last season, I don't think will be repeatable this season. So we're gonna sell high, and we're just gonna build around Con Knipple, Brandon Miller, by doing this trade, they created a $40.7 million trade exception, the biggest in history. So I feel like that. I mean, the Hornets are obviously not done. It was reported they're ready to move on from Miles Bridges, um, which makes sense with the Nas Reed coming back in. He's now your starting power forward in an offensive driven team. So I like that for Charlotte. They re-signed Kobe White today, but I think if they could get another player with that trade exception, I think the Hornets could be a lot fun. I think they have a foundational mold that they're building. I will say, I as much as I love Kobe White, he's just a different type of playmaker
Mm-hmm.
offensively than Lamelo Ball is, and as we seen with Con Knipple last year, like what does Con and Brandon Miller now look like, and Diabate look like without LaMelo Ball force feeding these guys. I think Kobe White is more of a score first guard, whereas LaMelo is a pass first guard. So I think that's where I'm a little like I wouldn't be surprised if the Hornets took a step back going into next season, but I think they did right on getting off LaMelo Ball, which is crazy because he's a 24-year-old, one of the most talented players we've ever seen. Like it's a big gamble for sure. But what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think it's as much of a gamble, to be honest with you, because I mean, in the seasons that LaMelo's been there,
Mm-hmm.
they have not been successful.
Yeah,
That's mostly part to the fact that he was never on the floor.
yeah.
Um, but this just was not working for Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
I think they strive to be a lot more than a play-in team, especially when you're in the Eastern Conference. So the way I look at it, you're getting off a player that was burdening you with injuries and lack of success, and now you're adding draft capital. And I'm a big Nas Reed guy, so I could sit here for an hour and tell you how good Nas Reed is.
Yeah,
But I think he's going to be a good fit. You also just drafted Khan, who was runner up for Rookie of the Year. You've got Brandon Miller. We'll see what happens with Miles, and then you've got Debata. Like you've got all these like guys that can go in
mm-hmm.
there, and you can build a core around this. I think with that $40 million trade exception, you could
Yeah,
go you could try and star hunt with that, or you could, split that exception up into, a couple of players that can really balance out your roster, use your cap space to your advantage. Free agency starts in, I think it's 5 days. So,
yeah. That's still good.
um, yeah, they're far from finished. I just think this is a package that they could not refuse because I honestly like looking at this. The Clippers could not have matched this package for sure. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know of many teams that would have given this much up for LaMelo Ball. So
yeah,
I think that's part of the reason why Charlotte jumped on this in the way they did. So hats off to them for that. But yeah, I mean, the East is still developing. Obviously, the Knicks are on top right now. Boston will be back next year. You've got your Detroits and all this. So it's like Charlotte has to figure out how they can put themselves in that conversation. And I
yeah.
think that starts with in this new NBA, not really like you can star hunt if you want to get a leader, but like you can't
Mm-hmm.
like, if you build a balanced out roster, which is kind of the direction they're going here with the way that they've drafted, I think they stand a good chance to kind of follow that mold, kind of like the Pistons did.
Yeah. No, yeah, no, I agree. I just think for me, I think going into like specifically just next season, I think the Hornets will take like a step back. And I like because I mean after the All-Star break, they were like the number one offense in the league, and it wasn't close. And I think
Yes.
a team that doesn't have a lot of defenders, I think not having like LaMelo Ball is gonna hurt them. I will, but and, they're so young. Like Brandon Miller played the most games of his career last year. Like how sustainable is that? I do get worried for a guy like Con Knipple, like he's have to do so much more. And we saw in that playing game against the Heat, like when the pressure was on, like he was not good at all.
Yeah, that's
Honestly,
fair.
probably costed him Rookie of the Year. So I guess it's just one of those things. I'm kind of waiting to see it to believe it. But I am happy they got off LaMelo Ball strictly because I think LaMelo Ball had the off the court stuff, and I think it was, hey, we want to sell high while we still can because if he goes back to where he was, then it might be stuck with him until he's a free agent. So
Yeah.
I like that.
Question for you.
Mm-hmm.
How are you feeling if you're Anthony Edwards right now?
I think if you're Anthony, if the reporting is true, getting off Julius Randle, I think was the bigger trade in this, right? If I'm Anthony Edwards, I'm super excited. Hey, I'm not going to be double teamed as much, and offensively, I think this helps everybody on the court, especially Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert, who is not really known for his offense and needs like the perfect lob. Well, you just got a lob passer who probably going to throw Rudy Gobert a perfect lob every time. So I think that elevates them offensively in a weird way. But Anthony Edwards, I mean, I think if I'm him, I like the trade, but I'm a little skeptical about it just because we've never seen LaMelo Ball in the playoffs. The amount of physicality that is being played in the playoffs, like I said earlier, this is a team that in the last 3 years has went to back-to-back conference finals. How do they get LaMelo Ball up to speed quick enough to match that intensity? That's where I get nervous if I'm Anthony Edwards. Like, okay, we're having a great regular season, but I mean, the NBA is one of the only sports where it's like two different ball games between regular
Mm-hmm.
season and playoffs. Like, and especially how it's officiated for a guy like LaMelo Ball that does like the foul grade. what happens when he can't rely his hat fully on the offensive end and he's not giving you that upper echelon um, defensive awareness. But what's your thoughts? What do you think Anthony Edwards thinking? Just remove?
Yeah, I just again I don't like it. I think from a basketball perspective, it's very what's the word? Just wacky. I feel
Yeah,
like um, I could pick a lot of better point guard running mates that we could have put next to Anthony Edwards. I also just think on a like just pure like life perspective, like these are two very different personalities. It'll be interesting to see how they get along. Anthony
mm-hmm.
Edwards is a fierce competitor. I'm not sure about LaMelo Ball, to be honest with you. I mean, I know he loves the game, but like um, he has his moments, especially on defense, where you're just not seeing the effort that Anthony Edwards is going to be able to put in. So I think both are really just going to have to be committed and locked into the vision to kind of make this work. Um, as far as like how they can play on the offensive end, I think with any point guard duo as skilled as they are on the offensive end, like I said, it's going to take time,
Yeah,
chemistry, and a lot of picking your poison, kind of like letting him cook, then let him cook. I mean, I always say this, but the biggest example is Luka and Kyrie. They did not figure it out until they figured out how to let each other have their moments within the games. And once they were able to do that and feed off of each other, they became one of the most unstoppable backcourts in the NBA. And so
yeah,
I think the same applies here. If LaMelo can learn how to let Ant have his, and then Ant can learn how to let LaMelo have his in the right moments, I think it can work. Um, but as far as like them being a title contender slash, competitive basketball team, I think that's really going to come down to the rest of the roster. What do
mm-hmm.
things with Gobert look like? Can you get the backup big? You've obviously got McDaniels, who I think is one of the most valuable role players in basketball. You did not give up
Yeah.
McDaniels. If they had given up McDaniels,
Oh
we
yeah,
would be
no,
having a
it would have been over.
completely
Yeah,
different conversation right now.
yeah,
So thank goodness they didn't do that. But yeah, I feel like this is like, you said it for Charlotte, and I agree. I think this is also it's a wait and see for both teams because
mm-hmm.
this is before free agency. It's right after the draft. There's still a lot of work to be done on both sides as far as getting the people on your roster that you need going into October. So I think a lot of these questions are going to be answered in the coming 5 to 6 days.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think if you're in Minnesota, I can see their thought process definitely behind it. It's like, well, first of all, I think the Wolves are going to be must see TV next year for
Oh
the
yeah,
right or the wrong reasons. Like, I just
yeah.
think a backcourt of LaMelo Ball and Anthony Edwards is going to be special. And I do think it's going to be a big adjustment because this is the first time, at least in the NBA, LaMelo Ball will not be the best player on his team. And I
Hmm.
think there's this also Anthony Edwards. I mean, he played with Cat, but that was just positionally just a totally different like position. So I think this is the first time he's had a guard next to him where it's like, yo, you could bring the ball up the court. Now Jaden McDaniels isn't that third or that second option like he was in the playoffs this year. Moves him to the third. He exhausts so much energy defensively. I think that helps him a lot. Like I said earlier with Gobert, I really like it for him. Um, the their the center, the backup center they drafted last year, the French kid, what's his name? The
In
Berger.
Minnesota.
Yeah, like Berger. I think this helps him a lot because they like him a lot.
Yeah.
He's a good lob threat. I think Terrence Shannon Jr. all of a sudden becomes even more valuable than he was last year. But if you are Anthony Edwards, like back to your original point, like, hey, we went to the conference finals. What did we do? We re-signed Nas Reed and we let Nikhil Alexander walk. Or we trade Cat. We fast forward the next year. We make the conference finals. Who we get rid of? Nikhil Alexander Walker. We let him walk. Now the following year, we lose in the second round. Now we're trading Nas Reed and Julius Randle. Say what you want about Julius Randle. They don't make it to the conference finals last year without him, right? I know he was really bad this year, but if I'm Ant, I'm like, okay, are the Timberwolves' new ownership kind of cheaping out? Why did we have to get rid of Nikhil Alexander Walker? Why did Nas Reed have to be included this deal? Why did Julius Randle? Why did we bring him back just to lose him? I mean, really for nothing because the trade exception created was from, you know what I mean? There's just so many questions that I'm
Yeah.
like, are you guys wanting us to win, or you just want to make the big splashy move that kind of like shuts me up for like a couple months, and then when shit hits the fan, it doesn't work. So I'm kind of looking
Yeah,
at this
I'm there.
from this is like a big move because I wouldn't be surprised if I could see this being really good and really bad for both teams. I wouldn't be surprised if we're a year from now it's like, oh, Anthony Edwards trade requests are just coming out of everywhere, and that's the gamble you take if you're Minnesota right
Yeah, and like you said, like teams that are trying to compete for a championship and get better each year are not letting their best players go or trading away guys. I mean, like you look at the Knicks, from the moment they got Brunson, it was all right. Now we're going to go get OG,
now.
and
Yeah.
then we're going to get McCall, and then
Mm-hmm.
we're going to get Cat. And it
Mm-hmm.
was it was a slow build. And then it was like, okay, now we've got all these guys. What do we need to do now? All right,
Mm-hmm.
let's go fill out the bench. And then once
Right.
they did that, they're champions. I mean,
Right.
OKC is another prime example. It's draft, 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 like suck for a while and then go for it. Boston, same thing. Tatum, Brown. All right, what do we do now? We're going to bring in Porzingis. We're going to bring in Derek White.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah, it doesn't make sense to me because it's like they're not bringing in better talent. Cat is a better player than Julius Randle. He was when that trade went down. We all know that.
Yeah.
Um, there are better options out there than LaMelo Ball. Getting rid of Nickeil Alexander-Walker, letting him walk and go to Atlanta is not a good look either.
Yeah.
Especially after the season he had in
Yeah.
Atlanta.
One of
So
improved players. So.
yeah, and it's like, and even with this LaMelo thing, you gave up one of your best players. Like
Mm-hmm.
Naz Reid is a fantastic basketball player. I mean, like he's very, very good, very solid. I mean, he can stretch the floor. He's a rare kind of big that you want to have. He's in Charlotte now. So it's like, uh, I definitely agree with you that some of these moves are head scratching. It does kind of feel like they're panicking almost. This
Mm-hmm.
is kind of what franchises do when they panic to try to win, and they're only going backwards. I mean, you went from a great conference finals team in 2024 to a lesser great conference finals team in 2025
Yeah.
to a second round exit in
Mm-hmm.
2026.
Yeah.
So, the trades are going backwards, and so is the team. So that should tell
Yeah.
you something.
Yeah, and I did like what they did with Io DeSumu's contract. I think that was a
Correct.
good team friendly deal. But like to your point, like I don't like what they're doing here. Like you just can't keep losing good players. And as OKC and San Antonio continues to get better, like
Yep.
it's gonna be hard for them to compete. Um, who? So I mean, let me ask you this. They're about $8.7 million under the first apron, so they're not done. They have about five empty roster spots. Who, who, who is that starting power forward? Do they put McDaniel's there and just fill out the bench? Like, what's your thoughts on filling out the rest of this Minnesota Timberwolves roster?
I mean, if they've got the spending power, I think they need to do it. I
Mm-hmm.
think AO was a bit of an overpay for me, honestly. And like, if we have to offload Randall and a better pick to make space for that, again, what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
If that was the true goal of the trade, which is that's what
Right.
Sham said, but it's like if that's really the goal, we're already missing. So,
Yeah.
I don't like McDaniels at the 4. I like him at the 3. So you've
Yeah.
got to go out there and find a serviceable big in order to do so. Who are some of the guys like that? Give me some names that are available this offseason that can play with 4.
The only one that immediately comes to mind, and I don't know if they could even afford him, is John Collins.
Yeah,
You know what
possibly.
I mean?
Yeah,
But
I could
like
see it.
even then, I'm like
I don't like
I'm
it for
like
them
hesitant.
defensively.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that if I'm them, I could see them. I mean, who was also in that trade was Josh Green. I think Josh Green he's big enough, but I don't know who's gonna be out there. It could be another trade
that's
coming,
right. Josh Green was in that trade. Yeah,
but
Josh
like I'm
Green's
not
definitely not
sure.
big enough for the 4.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know if it's like, hey, we're going fully offense, and they do like Lamelo and Io McDaniel's Gobert. Like I could definitely see that being their closing lineup right now, but
That's a lot of
I'm not a
guards.
fan. Yeah.
Yeah, that's way too many guards. And here's the funny part: they might run that though.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like this team is successful when you have a stretch big man next to Gobert. That's just the fact of the matter. So
Yeah.
they got to figure out how to do that, because if they run that lineup with just Gobert out there, it's going to be barbecue chicken.
Yeah.
So they need to, they'll need to figure out that. We'll have to pull up a list or something and kind of make some fits there for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely don't think they're done.
Oh no, no,
I,
for
I,
sure.
I am nervous though if
Oh
this
yeah.
is like a desperation move. And the NBA is forever changing. Like 48 hours ago after the draft, we didn't think LaMelo Ball was available. All of a sudden, he's a Timberwolf. Right? So I just
Yep.
get scared where it's like, hey, could you have gotten um for that same package? Could you have gotten Ant's favorite player in Kevin Durant? Like, I don't
Yeah, that's
know.
the
You know what I
truth.
mean? I
Yeah.
just don't know. So I think that's where I get nervous if I'm Minnesota. Back on to Charlotte's side though, um, $40.7 million trade exception. I just think they're
Time to
now a
hunt.
salary. I think they could be like a Lou Dort team if the Thunder need to shed salary. I think they could be. I think a lot of stuff they could just take on. I think I've seen a lot of people talk about Jaylen Brown. I don't know your thoughts
Oh
on
yeah,
Jaylen Brown being. I don't know.
you could.
I just don't know the package. The Celtics get back where it's like, okay, that suffices us, but you guard
Yeah,
that.
you're definitely a Brown suitor with that trade exception. But yeah, to your point.
Yeah, I don't know if like Brandon Miller, because you don't want to give up Khan, right? But I don't know if Brandon
No,
Miller,
no, that'd be a mistake.
Nas maybe get you there. I don't know, but
Rerouting Nas would be so criminal. That would be
yeah,
crazy. Do not put him in Boston, please.
yeah, that
Um, yeah, I don't know. They'll be an interesting story to watch. The 40.7, that's just like an unbelievable number. I mean, for a trade
yeah,
exception, never seen
largest one in
before.
history.
Largest one in history, yeah. Usually they average about 20, 22, something
Yeah,
like that, so something around that range. We'll have to get Wilder's thoughts on this one as well, because I know he covers the Timberwolves, so
yeah.
it's just a very interesting trade.
Hold on. Oh, there we go. I'm looking at power forwards right now.
Yeah, for Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, Porzingis is available. Tobias Harris, John Collins, Kaminga has a team option. Harrison Barnes, Rui. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I hate
Um,
Porzingis first and foremost. Like that,
yeah,
not Porzingis the person. I like the Porzingis play
him. Yeah,
style in Minnesota. Heck no.
yeah. Tari Eason's a restricted free agent. Precious Achua. Uh, Honestly, the only one that super struck out to me on that is Rui. I could totally see Rui just slotting in at the four, and they have shooting all around them.
Yeah,
Um, Defensively,
Rui's
he's not
solid.
exactly what you want, but I mean, Rui's never been surrounded around Rudy Gobert, Anthony Edwards, and Jaden McDaniels. So
Yeah,
that's interesting.
yeah, that could be solid potentially. It might have to be an under the radar guy too. It might not be a big splash name. It might just be one of those role players that you're just like, all right, cool. Like but either way, you've got to fill the position.
Um, Do you have any other thoughts on Charlotte or the Wolves, Lamelo Ball, Showtime, any of it?
I have one more. We can go
Yeah,
ahead and get to Anthony Edwards a little bit.
yeah,
Um, as far as his future concerned, I think this deal is where the clock ticks. Sometimes when teams make trades that are bad, you kind of just say, "All right, this is the ticking time bomb." I think this is the one.
yeah,
So I would not be shocked at all if we get to next summer and the conversation we're having is, Anthony Edwards has requested a trade. He wants to go to XYZ, and one of
yeah,
those teams will most definitely be Atlanta.
yeah,
I would not be shocked for having that conversation. I have been saying since they lost in the conference finals in 2024 to Dallas, Anthony Edwards will request a trade at some point. I just don't think he's going to stay in Minnesota. I definitely don't now. I could see him going to teams like Atlanta. It's just funny. I've always seen him as a Boston Celtic. I don't know why. I've always just seen something there in Boston, especially if they
mhm,
move off Brown. No
Right.
clue there. I just, Ant has a big Ant is meant for the big stage, and so
Yeah.
that's why I see like a place like Boston, or I could see him going west out to the West Coast at one of those teams.
The East Coast.
Yeah, yeah, East Coast. I mean, like so it's just gonna have to be the wait and see game. But this is where the ticking time bomb starts.
I saw it compared earlier to, and I forget who tweeted this, so I'm sorry, but they kind of compared it to when the Bucks waived and stretched Dame last year. Where it's like
Correct.
that's like what's
Yep.
the turning point? And I
Correct.
definitely wouldn't like say it's like a 1-to-1, but I definitely see the resemblance where it's like this is with a turning point. Because if you are Minnesota and you do trade Anthony Edwards eventually, you could always say, well, at least we have LaMelo Ball still, right? So they kind of saved their ass. Where in a lot of these superstar trades, when the superstar leaves, as we saw with Giannis going to Miami a couple days ago, there's just nothing left, right? So Minnesota could always say, well, we should sell LaMelo Ball and we could sell tickets, right? And I feel like back to the owners, I don't know. I feel like they kind of have a little Denver nugget in them where it's like they cheap out and they don't want to pay the tax. And when you have one of the top five player in the league, like you got to be able to go in and pay whatever, even if it's paying the second apron for 1 year. You could pay the
Yeah.
second apron for 1 year and it won't change anything. So um, yeah. Yeah. Do you have anything else on the Minnesota stuff? There was a couple other just NBA topics I wanted to talk about before we got off.
Yeah. I'm all good on this one though. We can go ahead and talk about
Yeah.
something else.
Okay. Cool. So I haven't had you on yet. Give me your thoughts on the Giannis to Miami trade. You last in
Yeah.
our team breakdown, you said this is a defining year if Giannis would request a trade, and here we are about 9 months later, and he's on a new team. So give me your thoughts on the Giannis trade.
Yeah, I can go ahead and do that. Like I remember, and you remember this too. I would not shut up about Miami. Like
Yeah,
that was just one of the places I would not keep my mouth shut about because of simply the ocean water and the market and all those things. I was supposed to be on that live video that night, but I was literally in bed, and then my phone just started going berserk. And I was like, "What is going on?" And I was like, "Oh, great, he got traded to the Heat." So, yeah,
yeah,
I'll get my thoughts. For Giannis, it's a win. I think he gets what he wants. He gets the big market. He gets to go be in Miami.
mm-hmm.
Bam Adebayo and Giannis together is just going to be cinema. I think same thing with LaMelo and Ant. I think that's something that you can get excited about watching.
Right.
But the roster was gutted. I mean,
It
like
completely, yeah,
they traded the sun, moon, the stars, the constellations. They traded like Pat Riley opened the treasure chest, dumped all the gold doubloons out, and took the
yeah,
chest and went back home.
yeah,
So it's like, and do I think Giannis is worth it? Potentially, I do.
yeah,
But like we've talked about the soft tissue injuries that
mm-hmm.
he sustained. We've talked about the fact that he's 30 now and he's entering a new era of his prime. I don't want to say the tail end, but it's not right smack dab in the middle anymore.
Right,
Um, so for Milwaukee, I love it. I mean, you got a bunch of first round picks. You got a bunch of really good role players. You got Tyler Hero. The big one for me that really stunk for Miami was getting rid of Khalil Ware.
mm,
I think he's just a fantastic piece.
yeah,
And now he gets to go be in Milwaukee. But overall, it's a win for Giannis. It's a loss for the Heat, in my opinion. And then
yeah,
it's also a win for the Bucks because it's a good package. Um, so yeah, those are kind of my initial thoughts.
yeah. I mean, I guess when I was reacting to it, I kind of thought of it from the lens of like Miami was the 10th seed last year. Like they weren't good really at all anyway. So them gutting their team, I'm like, well, they gutted out a team that was the 10th seed. So I'm kind of like, how good are these players actually? Now, I think what's really going to hurt is Jaime Jaquez. He was second in
Yes,
sixth man of the year. I think that
yes.
that's going to hurt. And the fact that Norman Powell, they can't re sign no more. I think that's a huge, huge,
Oh, they're gonna
huge
lose him.
loss. Yeah, they can't. They only got like $18 million to play with.
Yeah, bro.
So there's not enough shooting. I know the roster's not complete. So I mean, Gary Trent Jr. just opted out of his deal. I wouldn't be surprised if Giannis is like, hey, opt out, come play for the minimum again with me in Miami, which is a lot nicer place than Milwaukee, right? But I think it's gonna take a lot of maneuvering of those little type of guards. It was rumored Anthony Simons wants to take a 1 year rookie or not rookie minimum deal to come down and be the point guard for that team. So that's interesting. But like you said, the trade's incomplete, the teams are incomplete, but I do like it for both sides.
Yeah. For Giannis, again, like he gets what he wants. I had a thought and it just passed me by. But yeah, for Milwaukee, yeah, okay, here's what I was going to talk about. Do you think they should have taken this package or the Boston package?
I think I still would have taken the Heat package just because with the new draft reform, I do think there's a chance the Heat could just be mid, and those picks end up being like top 5 picks. So I do like that. And then if you're Milwaukee, why do I want Jaylen Brown? Who's it to say you're not just in another Giannis situation in a year? I know he said he would come and play, but I mean, Jaylen Brown's a good player. Like if he was like, I want to request a trade, they probably didn't want to deal with that shit again. And I
Yeah.
understand that as well.
Okay, yeah, I think that's fair. And then also like the one of the picks they got from Miami turned into Ahmed as well. So
Yeah.
I think that's a
And
prime example.
yeah, and I was fine with that. Like I love Nate Ament, right? But he went to the most perfect situation just because
Yeah.
he is a project. Like he is not an NBA player yet. Like he is gonna take 3 to 4 years till we're like, okay, that's the 6'11" power forward, small forward that could shoot the basketball. And then going into college too, one of the reasons why he committed to Tennessee is because the coach promised him he would never play the 4 or the 5. So now you're in
Yeah.
the NBA. I do think he's gonna have to be willing to play the 4 and a little bit
Absolutely.
more. But I do like it from Milwaukee. If he went to a perfect situation, Taylor Jenkins had Jaren Jackson Jr. in a weird different way. He knows how to work with these weird rangy, wiry, small forward, power forward archetypes. So I'm excited for him.
Yeah, no, I agree. Um, yeah, I think with and then also kind of to get with the Jaylen Brown situation. What do you think is next for him? Because I feel like he's the next big domino to fall.
Yeah, so I definitely think he's not playing another dribble in Boston ever again. I think he's
Okay.
gonna get traded. I would be shocked. I'd honestly be shocked if he's not traded in the next week and a half max. I do think with everybody having either cap space or they don't want him to be the holdup. I know teams that have been rumored have been Atlanta. I'm hesitant on Atlanta because I do think they'd rather Anthony Edwards, right? But
Hmm.
Atlanta's been rumored. I've seen Dallas, which is interesting. For me, I think what's so weird is like it's been rumored that Boston wants a big back. And if you just go around the league, there's just not a lot of premier bigs that you could get back and be like, okay, that was worth trading Jaylen Brown. And I do think it's a little overrated that just because he was in talks for Giannis Antetokounmpo, like it's like just unsalvageable. But like, dude, look in the mirror. Like, you were second team All NBA. Giannis is the MVP candidate, right? So it's like you, like, yeah, you were in a trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Like that should be not an honor, but I do get it from his perspective too, where it's like, hey, I'm I was your Finals MVP. I brought you to this 3 seed when Jason Tatum was out. Like I do think there's a disrespect factor there where it might be unsalvageable. So, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I feel bad for him
Yeah.
because I just feel like Boston's really mistreating him in general. I think it's always just been about let's just bow down to Jason Tatum. And,
Yeah.
Jaylen Brown was the one that got you through this season, and he was the reason that the Celtics were as good as they were.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like anywhere Jaylen Brown's a top 15 NBA player. I mean, like,
Top 10.
that's just, do you think 10?
Yeah.
All right, bet. I
I'd
mean,
say
like,
10. Yeah.
either way, I mean, like, he's up there. So it's like, whatever team gets him is getting a bona fide superstar who's got a lot of good years of basketball left in him.
Right.
So I've heard a lot of rumors about the A. I mean, like that just makes the most sense logically. But yeah, I mean, the Dallas stuff is news to me. And like I saw we were texting about that in the forum today. That's news to me. I mean, like, that would be an absolutely beautiful basketball fit. But the
Hmm.
question is, what does the stuff look like? And you said they're looking for a big. Well, I mean, you can't look for. We've got a
Definitely.
lot of them. So I mean,
Yeah.
that would be a beautiful basketball fit. But that's I just have to do my research on that one. I was talking to somebody today. They said they mentioned the Clippers as well. And I know
Hmm.
the Kawhi situation is kind of interesting down there. Who knows? But also you've got, they didn't draft Acuff either. So now you've got just Darius Garland down there. Do you decide to put like a Jalen Brown next to him?
Hmm.
That'd be another interesting fit in
Would
my
you trade the
opinion.
fifth pick in that? Would you trade Keenan Wagler?
Let's try to think of Wagler. Where do you think Wagler's gonna be more of a 2 or a 3?
I think he's gonna be a one.
Yeah, oh, okay.
I think at his ceiling he'll be a one, but at the same time, I think defensively he'll be used more as a 2-3.
Yeah, I think you gotta keep Wagler around. I don't think you trade him for Jalen Brown. I mean, like if you're the Clippers, you gotta like for years it's just been veterans, veterans, veterans,
Yeah.
veterans. And so it's like if you're gonna bring in a veteran, do not give up your young star talent.
Yes.
I mean, like just
Yes.
don't do it. So
Yeah.
yeah, you gotta keep Wagler around. I don't know. That's yeah, the Clippers would be an interesting spot. But like I think the team that makes the most sense for me is Atlanta.
Hmm.
So I would just have to we would just have to see what happens there. But they would have to go into that trade knowing like, okay, if we want an Anthony Edwards in town in the future, this ain't gonna
Yeah.
happen with this massive contract that we're about to take on.
Right. I think what I also keep coming back to is like if Boston really does go this route and wants to trade Jalen Brown, I wouldn't be shocked if whatever the trade is, they don't get better. I think they get worse because I just don't see the player they get back where it's like, okay,
Yeah.
that's the player. You know what I mean? And
No,
for
yeah.
Boston, that's a team that wants to win championships, and I just can't. Every team I keep running scenarios with, like I have a big Cavs fan. I was like, would you do Donovan Mitchell for Jalen Brown? He said, hell no. And I'm like, well, that's weird. You know what I mean? Like I just don't know the trade you get, and like I've seen the Evan Mobley. That's interesting, but I'm also like, do you really want Evan Mobley if you're in Boston? Like he doesn't really fit what you guys do, pace and
No.
space, and so I do think my underrated team that I just keep coming back to, um, I keep coming back to Detroit. I just think
Okay, I'm listening.
Detroit. I just think I don't know what the trade looks like, but I do think like if it's between overpaying for a guy like they just got off Isaiah Stewart, I think they're gonna bring back Jalen Duren. But what else could you put like an Asar Thompson like center pack? I just don't know. Like I don't know.
I think yeah, for Detroit, you do not trade Asar. That's just like a for
Okay.
me. Like if you have a Thompson twin, you're hanging on to that guy. Like that's
Yeah.
just kind of where I stand. Um, you could, I don't know. I know Wendy talked about Kawhi for Detroit. I was hearing a lot about that. So I mean, I think that's another potential. Like,
Yeah.
hey, we want to go all in kind of move. And Kawhi was like, and I don't say this often. Kawhi was fantastic last year.
Yeah.
So and healthy. So I mean, you could do that, but I could see it. I could see him
Yeah.
in Detroit. I just think like also like there's something intriguing about him going west. I mean, there's a couple teams in the West that I'd be like, like I could really I could see that happening.
Yeah.
I feel like you could maybe put him on like a name a team realistically
I
that you could
mean,
see.
before the Austin Reeves deal, I wanted to do a sign and trade with Reeves for Brown. I just
Oh
think
dear.
Brown's probably the most prototypical guy you could put next to Luca. And as great as Kyrie and Luca was, I think differently that fits even better. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Just because Brown's more of an alpha and more of a defender, but like I was thinking, oh, if the sign and trade with Brown, so if I just think that fundamentally just changes your whole team. Because as much as I love Austin Reeves, 40, I mean, a max contract at 43 million, it's no more this cute love story where you're at 16 million, you're overplaying. Now it's like, okay, you're getting paid max money, we're going to judge you on a max salary contract now. I just think that's
Hmm.
where I mean, I understand from the Lakers, they had to. they had to bring him back just because they couldn't lose him to Detroit. But and I guess that noise was real because Detroit ended up salary dumping Isaiah Stewart last night. So maybe there's still a move on the horizon for Detroit. But
Yeah.
yeah, so Lakers come to mind. Dallas comes to mind. The Warriors, if they're really
I was gonna
real
say the
about
Warriors.
like trying to win one last one, makes a lot of sense. But I just don't
Oh
know
boy, yeah.
what does Boston want back? Like
Yeah.
they don't want torn ACL Jimmy Butler. Like I just don't know the salary matching. So yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I think I'll touch on Dallas really quickly. From a basketball perspective, that
Mm-hmm.
gets me so giddy. I feel like he
Yeah.
just slips right in. Like Kyrie, Brown, Flag, and then I mean, from a basketball standpoint,
Yeah.
I mean, like it's a beautiful fit for Dallas. So like I would be elated to have Brown in Dallas. But yeah, the question remains like, what do you what do you give up? What do you
Yeah.
what do you do with that? And I don't really know if now is the time for that
Mm-hmm.
necessarily. I really like the way things are heading right now. I mean,
Me too.
prove me wrong, but to touch on Golden State, I mean, like, yeah, Golden State's problem, they just don't have the assets to get it done. I mean, they didn't have the assets to
Yeah.
get Giannis, and I mean, they're going to want a lot for Brown as well. So, I mean, if
Right.
if if you're going to get Brown, I mean, the Warriors are probably going to have to give up all four of those picks probably
Yeah.
to go get him. But again, like from a basketball standpoint, Curry, Brown, I mean, like that would be fantastic. And then you'll get Butler back,
Yeah.
probably. Um, so that's another one. I could see I mean, you put him in Phoenix next to Devin Booker. I mean,
I was thinking Phoenix,
yeah,
like
you could
Dylan
put him,
Brooks and
yeah, put him in
yeah.
Phoenix next to those guys. Houston, I mean, potentially,
Yeah.
like maybe.
Was
They
it
need
KD or Shangoon? Which one would you
Şengün 100%.
okay.
And I feel like realistically, like Şengün would fit right in Boston. I feel like that's an ideal get back player for Boston because they're lacking, the big men depth. They've got Vooch, but it's like you put in
Yeah.
Şengün, it's like that's your five.
Yeah.
So you could potentially do something like that. I don't know what Houston has as far as draft capital is concerned. OKC and San Antonio, they're not in the conversation. We
Yeah.
mentioned Dallas, Golden State, Phoenix, Minnesota's not in the conversation. We mentioned the Clippers. I don't see Denver whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got the bottom half, like your Portlands, your Sacramento, New Orleans. I don't see any of those at all.
Portland made sense to me if it was a 3-teamer with Giannis. Like if that was the
Yeah, no,
trade.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. I don't know if there's any teams past that
No, I
that I'm
don't think.
forgetting
I mean,
about.
the only team that I keep coming back to besides Detroit with Jaylen Brown is like, if for some reason the Heat were like, we don't want Bam anymore.
Oh
I
boy,
think if you
yeah.
paired Brown and Giannis, that's I think another level
Could
of
you
like,
imagine after all the trade talk, they end up in Miami together? That'd be so
yeah,
funny.
yeah, and I think Bam would fit Missoula's system perfectly as the switchy big that could pop a little bit, but yeah, I Jaylen Brown, the sweepstakes are going to be ongoing. We'll be here to break it down. I did want to, before we go, I wanted to bring this up to you. Shams, right when we went on, said Mitchell Robinson is not expected to return to the Knicks because Jim Dolan will not pay the
Just
into the
now.
second. Yeah, like 55 minutes ago.
Okay, let me look at that.
I'm just curious, what's your thoughts on what's your thought process on like where do you think Mitchell Robinson could go? How much that contract you think he should get? Because I don't think he's a full time starter.
No, I don't either. I think if you're the Knicks, I mean, like you just won a title. Mitchell Robinson's a liability from the free throw line. I hate to bring that up, but it's just the reality of the
Yeah.
situation. I don't know, honestly. I mean, like I feel like he could go anywhere. I feel like he's one of those guys where it's like it's not a league shaking move. So I feel like he could
Mm-hmm.
fit in on a lot of teams.
I mean, I would love him to be like the backup center to the Lakers, but like I just don't know I still don't know the like absolutely number one center the Lakers could get still, but
Yeah, I feel like if you're the Warriors, you could look at a Mitchell Robinson. I mean,
yeah.
they lack size pretty much everywhere. So I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
could that's a spot I could realistically see. Um, off first glance. I mean, maybe Minnesota. I mean, that's I don't like that for Minnesota. Not I don't like that
Because
for
I think he's
Minnesota.
gonna get like 18 to 20 million. I think that's the range
Correct.
I could see him.
Yeah. I don't know. That's interesting. That'll be something to monitor.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you guys for all joining today. We are gonna wrap this up. LaMelo Ball just got traded to the Timberwolves. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section. Who won this trade? Turn on that notification bell. We hit 200 subscribers today, which is awesome. And I can see we're still climbing. So
We are indeed.
thank you guys for subscribing, and we'll continue to get better, and we'll go all through this together. So until next time, peace and job bless.